Make sure you clean under the desks properly this time, Barbara from HR sneered, not bothering to look up from her designer phone case as I pushed my cleaning cart past her office. The last cleaning lady was fired for missing spots. I adjusted my simple gray uniform, feeling the weight of my Harvard MBA diploma and the CEO appointment letter in my shoulder bag. 2 weeks into my undercover mission to understand global dynamics from the ground up, and I'd already filled 3 notebooks with observations about the company's toxic culture. Yes, ma'am, I replied softly, maintaining my carefully crafted persona of Elena Martinez, the new evening cleaning staff member. The board had insisted I take 3 months to quietly assess the company before officially stepping in as CEO, but they hadn't specified how I should do it. My decision to start from the bottom had raised some eyebrows among my fellow executives, but I knew that real change had to begin with understanding the foundation. "Oh, and Elena?" Barbara called out, her voice dripping with condescension. "Mr. Richardson's office needs extra attention. Board meeting tomorrow, you know. Not that you need to worry about such things." If she only knew that I'd be leading that board meeting. I pushed my cart toward the executive floor, passing Michael from accounting who was openly berating a junior analyst. "This is why we keep people like you in the basement," he was saying. "Can't even handle basic spreadsheets." The analyst's eyes were brimming with tears. I made a mental note in my hidden phone app. Toxic management in accounting, immediate intervention needed. The executive floor was a monument to corporate excess. While the lower floors had flickering fluorescent lights and cramped cubicles, up here the halls were lined with expensive art and custom carpeting. The disparity was exactly what the board had hired me to address, though they didn't know I'd discover it quite so personally. "Hey, cleaning lady." Vice President David Chen called out as I entered his office. "Be careful with those awards on my shelf. They're worth more than you make in a year." I glanced at the awards while dusting them, mostly golf tournament trophies and networking excellence certificates. Meanwhile, the real industry accolades I'd earned were sitting in a box in my apartment, waiting to be hung in this very office once I took over. "And don't touch any papers on my desk," he added, barely looking up from his game of mobile solitaire. "Confidential business matters. Though I suppose that's not something you need to worry about." The papers he was so concerned about were merger proposals I'd already reviewed and rejected last week during my confidential meetings with the board. His brilliant strategy for aggressive acquisition would have bankrupted 3 smaller companies and cost thousands of jobs. My phone vibrated silently, a message from the board chairman. "Tomorrow's meeting's still on schedule. New CEO introduction at 10 a.m. Have you selected your approach?" I smiled behind my mask as I typed back. "Everything arranged. Expect surprises. Elena." The sharp voice of Marketing Director Sarah Williams cut through my thoughts. "There's a coffee stain in the conference room. The board meeting is tomorrow morning. If that room isn't perfect, you'll be looking for a new job." I hurried to the conference room, playing my part while mentally reorganizing the marketing department's leadership structure. Sarah's file on my laptop was already marked for immediate review. As I cleaned the conference room table where I'd be sitting at the head tomorrow, I could hear executives in the hallway discussing the mysterious new CEO. "Probably another stuffed shirt from Wall Street," David Chen was saying. "We'll show them how things really work around here." "I heard it's someone from Silicon Valley," Sarah Williams replied. "Some tech hotshot who thinks they can revolutionize everything. As long as they know to leave us alone and let us run our departments," Barbara added. "I've been managing HR for 15 years. No one knows this company better than me." I suppressed a laugh, thinking about the comprehensive reform plan sitting in my briefcase. 15 years of toxic management was exactly what I'd been hired to fix. The evening wore on as I cleaned each office, gathering intelligence that would prove invaluable in the coming months. Every dismissive comment, every display of arrogance, every instance of mismanagement was carefully noted in my hidden recordings. At 9 p.m. as I was finishing up, CFO Richard Thompson stormed past me, barking into his phone. "I don't care what the numbers show. Make them look better before the new CEO arrives. And get that cleaning lady out of my sight. I can't focus with the help hovering around." I packed up my cleaning supplies, changed out of my uniform in the staff bathroom, and headed home to prepare for tomorrow. My designer suit was pressed, my presentation was ready, and my security badge identifying me as Elena Martinez, CEO, was sitting on my nightstand. The next morning would be interesting indeed. The morning of the board meeting dawned bright and clear. I arrived early, still wearing my cleaning uniform, to do one final sweep of the executive floor. The nervous energy was palpable as executives rushed around, preparing for the mysterious new CEO's arrival. "Elena," Barbara snapped, tottering past in her Louboutins. "What are you still doing here? We need the cleaning staff gone before the new CEO arrives. We can't have your kind visible during important meetings." "Of course, ma'am," I replied softly, making a show of gathering my cleaning supplies. "I'll just finish up in the conference room." "Make it quick," she hissed. "And for heaven's sake, don't let anyone important see you." As I pushed my cart toward the conference room, I passed David Chen rehearsing what appeared to be a power play speech in his office mirror. "Now about your proposed changes," he practiced, straightening his tie. "While we appreciate fresh perspectives, we have systems in place that have worked for years." If he only knew that my first act as CEO would be dismantling those very systems. The conference room was already filling with nervous energy and expensive cologne as board members and executives arrived. I kept my head down as I made one final pass with the cleaning supplies, catching snippets of their conversations. "Heard the new CEO is some hotshot reformer," Michael from accounting whispered. "Please," Sarah Williams scoffed. "Give them a month. They'll learn to play by our rules or they'll be gone like the last three who tried to change things." I thought about the folder in my briefcase documenting exactly how they'd undermined previous reform attempts. That folder would make for interesting reading at tomorrow's HR review. At 9:45, I slipped out and headed to the executive bathroom with my change of clothes. The transformation from Elena the cleaner to Elena the CEO took exactly 12 minutes. Just enough time to switch my uniform for a tailored Armani suit and transform my carefully tied back hair into a professional style. My phone buzzed with a message from the board chairman. "Ready when you are." They have no idea. Another from my executive assistant who'd been in on the plan. "Everyone's seated. The show is about to begin." I checked my reflection one last time, straightening the CEO badge that would soon shock everyone in that room. 2 weeks of being treated like I was invisible were about to pay off in spectacular fashion. At precisely 10 a.m., I heard the board chairman's voice through the conference room doors. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your new chief executive officer." I pushed open the doors and walked in, heels clicking purposefully on the marble floor. The room fell into stunned silence as recognition slowly dawned on their faces. Barbara's coffee cup slipped from her fingers, spilling onto her designer suit. David Chen's practiced speech died in his throat. Sarah Williams' perfectly maintained composure cracked like cheap foundation. "Good morning," I said clearly, taking my place at the head of the table. "I believe some of you know me as Elena. I've spent the past 2 weeks getting to know this company from the ground up. Now let's discuss what I've learned." This is impossible," Barbara stammered. "You're the cleaning lady." "Actually," I smiled, sliding my CEO badge across the table. "I'm Elena Martinez, Harvard MBA, former CEO of Tech Innovations and your new chief executive. Though I have learned quite a lot about the state of this company while pushing that cleaning cart." I opened my laptop, connecting it to the presentation screen. "Shall we begin with what I observed in human resources, Barbara? Your comments about my kind were particularly illuminating." The color drained from her face as I pulled up my first slide, a comprehensive documentation of every discriminatory comment, every instance of mismanagement, every example of toxic culture I'd witnessed. "Or perhaps," I continued, turning to David Chen, "we should discuss those confidential papers you were so worried about? The ones detailing your rejected merger proposals that I'd already reviewed last month." David's attempt at a confident smile looked more like a grimace. "Better yet," I turned to Sarah Williams, "let's talk about marketing's creative approach to employee intimidation. I particularly enjoyed your threats about my job security last night." The board chairman was trying to hide his smile as the executives squirmed in their seats. This was exactly why he'd supported my unconventional approach to assessing the company. "Now," I said, standing up to face the stunned room, "let's discuss the changes that are going to happen at Global Dynamics. Starting with a complete restructuring of senior management." The next hour was a masterclass in corporate reform, delivered by the woman they'd dismissed as part of the help for 2 weeks. The days following my revelation were a fascinating study in human behavior. The same executives who'd barely acknowledged my existence now practically tripped over themselves trying to curry favor. Barbara from HR sent a desperate email at 3 a.m. Dear Ms. Martinez, I sincerely apologize for any misunderstandings during your observation period. My comments about your kind were taken out of context. I have always been a strong advocate for diversity and inclusion. I forwarded it to my executive assistant with one note. Add to the documentation file. Schedule exit interview for Friday. David Chin attempted damage control by leaving an expensive bottle of wine on my desk with a note. Ms. Martinez. Those confidential papers you mentioned. Perhaps we could discuss my vision for the company over dinner? I've always believed in progressive leadership. The wine joined the growing collection of desperate peace offerings in my office closet. The note joined Barbara's email in the documentation file. Sarah Williams tried a different approach, camping outside my office with a PowerPoint presentation titled, Marketing's Revolutionary New Direction. She'd changed her signature designer suits for more modest attire, apparently thinking I'd be impressed by this superficial transformation. Ms. Martinez, she called out as I passed, I've completely reimagined our corporate culture initiatives. Fascinating, I replied, not breaking stride. Send it to HR. Though you might want to wait until Monday, we'll have new leadership by then. The whispers in the hallways had shifted from condescension to fear. She recorded everything. 2 weeks of cleaning offices. Heard she has files on everyone. Complete restructuring coming. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from board members, impressed with how much I'd uncovered during my undercover period. Chairman, the toxic culture runs deeper than we thought. Your approach was unorthodox but effective. Director Stevens, no wonder the last 3 CEOs failed. They never saw the real problems. Director Wong, ready to support whatever changes you deem necessary. I called an all-staff meeting for Monday morning. Every employee from executives to maintenance staff was required to attend. The grand auditorium filled with nervous energy as people filed in, the usual social hierarchies disrupted as no one quite knew where to sit anymore. Good morning, I began, standing at the podium. Many of you knew me as Elena the cleaning lady. Some of you were kind to me during those 2 weeks. Others. I paused, letting my gaze sweep over the uncomfortable executives, were less so. Today we're going to discuss what that reveals about our company culture. I clicked to the first slide, a comprehensive organizational chart with red marks through multiple executive positions. Effective immediately, Global Dynamics is undergoing a complete restructuring. The following changes will be implemented. The room held its collective breath. First, Barbara Thompson is no longer head of human resources. Her replacement will be Janet Chin from our maintenance staff, a qualified HR professional with a master's degree who's been working as a janitor because of systematic discrimination in our hiring practices. Barbara's outraged gasp was audible even from the back of the auditorium. Second, David Chen's position as vice president is being eliminated. His responsibilities will be distributed among a team of junior analysts, the same ones he repeatedly belittled and undermined. David slumped in his seat, his practiced confidence finally shattered. Third, the entire marketing department will be restructured. Sarah Williams, your new position will be in customer service. Perhaps direct interaction with the people you've been marketing to will provide valuable perspective. Sarah's perfectly maintained facade cracked completely as she burst into tears. Additionally, I continued, every executive who made discriminatory comments or displayed abusive behavior during my observation period will be required to work 1 month in entry-level positions. Consider it a learning opportunity. The stunned silence was broken by scattered applause from the lower-level employees. Moving forward, promotions will be based on merit, not networking. Salaries will be adjusted for equity. The executive floor will be converted into a communal workspace. And yes, I smiled, the cleaning staff will receive the same benefits as management. I clicked to the next slide, security footage showing various instances of misconduct I'd witnessed. This is who we were. This is not who we will be. Global Dynamics is no longer a playground for entitled executives. It's going to become what it should have been all along, a company where talent and hard work matter more than status and connections. The applause was louder now, spreading through the audience like a wave. One final note, I added. My cleaning cart will remain in my office. Not as a reminder of these past 2 weeks, but as a reminder that no job, no person, no contribution is beneath our respect. The aftermath was exactly what I'd expected. Resignations poured in from executives unwilling to adapt. LinkedIn profiles were hastily updated. Legal threats were made and quickly withdrawn when faced with my comprehensive documentation. But something else happened too. Innovation increased. Productivity soared. Employee satisfaction scores rose dramatically. Turns out people work better when they're not terrified of their superiors or dismissed for their position. 1 month later, I received an email from Barbara, now working as an entry-level HR assistant. Ms. Martinez, I never knew how hard these jobs were. How much skill they required. How much dignity mattered. I understand now why you did what you did. Barbara. I forwarded it to Janet, our new HR director, with a note. Perhaps there's hope for her after all. David Chen's customer service recordings showed a man learning humility the hard way. Sarah Williams actually excelled in her new role, once she stopped trying to prove her superiority. 6 months later, Global Dynamics was featured in Business Week. The undercover CEO who cleaned house literally. The article praised our revolutionary approach to corporate culture and highlighted our improved performance metrics. But my favorite part was the photo they used, me in my CEO suit, standing next to my cleaning cart, surrounded by a diverse group of employees who no longer had to pretend to be something they weren't. My phone buzzed with a message from the board chairman. You didn't just clean house. You rebuilt it. Well done. I smiled, thinking about all the executives who'd dismissed me, looking down on the cleaning lady who was silently taking notes about their behavior. Thank you, I replied. Sometimes the best way to clean up a company is to start from the bottom. And sometimes the most important perspective comes from being invisible. I looked out my office window, no longer on the executive floor but in an open workspace where anyone could reach me. The cleaning cart sat in the corner, a reminder that respect isn't earned by position but by character.